When was the radius of the Earth discovered and where did it take place? Whether it was discovered by any German or British scientist or its experiment was done in Europe, the answer is completely no. It was none other than famous Iranian Muslim scientist Abu Rayhan Al-Biruni, the founder of Indology and father of modern geodesy, born on September 5, 973 in Khorzam. He came into ancient India in 11th century to record its history, religion, culture and science. He established his observatory in Nandana Fort and quantified the radius of the earth with spotless precision. Nandana is situated in district Jhelum, Pakistan, about 60 miles southeast of Islamabad. By halting at Nandana and making it a center for his inquiries, Nandana was a place of considerable importance historically and geographically. It had been the capital of the rulers of the Hindu Shahi dynasty for about 12 years until 1014 AD when Mahmud Ghaznavi conquered the city. Biruni extended his visits into the surrounding regions, which was also rich in minerals, and he was equally interested in precious stones. He mentioned Nandana as a great place for learning in his famous Kitab al-Hind. Today, on the top of the bloody rocky mountains of Nandana, around 1500 feet above sea level, lies the ruined structures of Nandana Laboratory. So, how the journey started and why Biruni was equally interested in measuring the latitudes and radius of the earth. He says in his book that he has utmost enthusiasm to calculate the latitudes of these places. Biruni's personal acquaintance and association with Sultan Mahmud began after the Sultan had defeated the rebel forces and taken over Khorzam in Safar 1017 AD. Soon Biruni gained complete confidence of the Sultan so that within 1 year after his arrival in Ghazna, it was then that the first convenient opportunity became available to Biruni to move out of Ghazna and he immediately left for Kabul, where he calculated the latitudes of Kabul and other places in the region. He had now availed of the opportunities to conduct field research as far away as Kabul and Laghman. Thus, his experiment on calculating the latitudes started on Thursday in 1018 AD, when he was first at the village in the vicinity of Kabul. Though he has not mentioned all the places where he had been during his travels in Hind, in one of his references he has named the more important ones which were visited by him, of which he himself had observed the latitudes. These were the modern day Peshawar, Lauhar, 56 miles from the capital of Kashmir, Hind, Fort Nandana, Sialkot, Mandakakor, capital of Lahore region at that time, and Multan. When he reached Nandana, he preferred to go up to the mountain top to size up the plain and peak point where vertical measurement to its foot could be taken, passed through the lower part of the city, traversed a long way towards northwest, crossed the shallow waters flowing downwards, climbed up the slopes along its northwestern shoulder and reached high up on the top before he could have a full view of the plain. Where he did so and had a full view of the vast level plain extending southward far off to horizon. He took the final decision to try out his new experiment of determining the dimension of the earth. He applied this method for the first time in his Nandana experiment in the fort of Nandana during 1020 to 1023 AD. In the printed edition of his work, the longitude and latitude of Fort Nandana was 94.7167 degree east and 330.1667 degree north of the equator respectively. He revised and recorded both the figures in his Al-Qanun al-Masudi. There is another theory which explains that why Biruni needed to find the radius and circumference of the earth. The need to calculate the size of the earth was first felt when the Abbasid Caliphate spread far and wide from the Spain to the Indus River in modern day Pakistan. Muslims are required to pray facing the direction of the Kaaba, and being far away from Kaaba does not spare one from this obligation. So, no matter how far Muslims were from the Kaaba, they needed to determine the exact direction to pray. To do this accurately, they needed to know the curvature of the earth. Knowing this demanded that they know the size of the earth. The caliph was also curious to know the size of his empire. Abbasid Caliphate Al-Mamun thus employed a team of renowned scholars of that time and assigned them the task of calculating the size of the earth. They started by finding the distance over which the sun's angle at noon changed by 1 degree, multiplying it by 360, and you arrived at the circumference from which size can be deduced. They arrived at a value that was within 4% of the actual value. The problem with this method was that it was complex to measure large straight line distances between 2 points in the heat of the desert, and perhaps they only had to count paces to measure it. Al-Biruni devised a more sophisticated and reliable method to achieve this objective. Al-Biruni needed only three things to carry out his experiment. The first thing was an astrolabe. The second was a suitable mountain with a flat horizon in front of it so that the angle of depression of the horizon could be accurately measured. He found Nandana as the best place to carry out his experiment. The third was knowledge of trigonometry. Al-Biruni's work in trigonometry was groundbreaking, introducing new concepts and methods that greatly influenced the development of the subject. He introduced trigonometric functions such as sine, cosine, and tangent and developed precise trigonometric tables which were instrumental in solving various astronomical and mathematical problems. Al-Biruni used two steps to calculate the radius and circumference of the earth. The first was he had to calculate the height of the mountain, and the second was he had to find the flat horizon from the top of the mountain. After doing his experiment, the result was completely astonishing as it was so close to the actual circumference and radius of the earth. With his formula, Biruni arrived at the value of the circumference of the earth within 200 miles of the actual value of 24,902 miles, which is less than 1% of the error. Biruni's stated radius of 6335.725 km is also very close to the original value, which is 6371 km. After 2018, the government of Pakistan has taken some steps to promote tourism and heritage in this region. It is a mega project by the name of Al-Biruni Radius, a heritage trail, interconnecting seven major historic sites in the Salt Range. It was announced when Prime Minister of Pakistan Imran Khan was at Nandana Fort to unveil the site, where legendary Persian Muslim astronomer, mathematician, anthropologist, historian, and geographer quantified the radius and circumference of the planet Earth.